ओम श्री साई भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सत्य स्वरूपाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सत्य धर्मपरायणाय नमः। ओम श्री साई वरदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सत्पुरुषाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सत्य गुणात्मने नमः। ओम श्री साई साधुवर्धनाय नमः। ओम श्री साई साधुजन पोषणाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वज्ञाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वजनप्रियाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वशक्तिमूर्ते नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वेशाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वसंगपरित्यागिने नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वान्तर्यामिने नमः। ओम श्री साई महिमात्मने नमः। ओम श्री साई महेश्वर स्वरूपाय नमः। ओम श्री साई प्रतिग्रामोद्भवाय नमः। ओम श्री साई प्रतिक्षेत्र निवासिने नमः। ओम श्री साई शक्काय शिरडिवासिने नमः। ओम श्री साई जोड़ी आदिपल्ली सोमप्पाय नमः। ओम श्री साई भरद्वाज ऋषि गोत्राय नमः। ओम श्री साई भक्तवत्सलाय नमः। ओम श्री साई अपांदरात्मने नमः। ओम श्री साई अवतार मूर्ति नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वभय निवारिणी नमः। ओम श्री साई आपस्तंभ सूत्राय नमः। ओम श्री साई अभयप्रदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई रत्नाकर वंशोद्भवाय नमः। ओम श्री साई शिरडी साई अभेद शक्त्यावताराय नमः। ओम श्री साई शंकराय नमः। ओम श्री साई शिरडी साई मूर्ते नमः। ओम श्री साई द्वारकामाई वासिने नमः। ओम श्री साई चित्रावतीधर पुट्ट प्रतिहारिणे नमः। ओम श्री साई शक्तिप्रदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई शरणागत प्राणाय नमः। ओम श्री साई आनंदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई आनंददाय नमः। ओम श्री साई आर्तत्राणपरायणाय नमः। ओम श्री साई अनाथनाथाय नमः। ओम श्री साई असहाय सहायाय नमः। ओम श्री साई लोकबांधवाय नमः। ओम श्री साई लोकरक्षापरायणाय नमः। ओम श्री साई लोकनाथाय नमः। ओम श्री साई दीनजन पोषणाय नमः। ओम श्री साई मूर्तित्रय स्वरूपाय नमः। ओम श्री साई मुक्तिप्रदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई कलशविदूराय नमः। ओम श्री साई करुणाकराय नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वाधाराय नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वहृद्वासिने नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वपुण्यबलप्रदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वपापक्षयकराय नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वरोगनिवारिणे नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वबाधहराय नमः। ओम श्री साई अनंतनुजकर्तृणे नमः। ओम श्री साई आदिपुरुषाय नमः। ओम श्री साई आदिशक्तिये नमः। ओम श्री साई अपरूपशक्तिने नमः। ओम श्री साई अव्यक्तरूपिणे नमः। ओम श्री साई कामक्रोधध्वंसिने नमः। ओम श्री साई कनकांबरधारिणे नमः। ओम श्री साई अद्भुतचर्याय नमः। ओम श्री साई आपद्बांधवाय नमः। ओम श्री साई प्रेमात्मने नमः। ओम श्री साई प्रेममूर्तये नमः। ओम श्री साई प्रेमप्रदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई प्रियाय नमः। ओम श्री साई भक्तप्रियाय नमः। ओम श्री साई भक्तमंदाराय नमः। ओम श्री साई भक्तजन हृदय विहाराय नमः। ओम श्री साई भक्तजन हृदयालयाय नमः। ओम श्री साई भक्तपराधीनाय नमः। ओम श्री साई भक्ति ज्ञान प्रदीपाय नमः। ओम श्री साई भक्ति ज्ञान प्रदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सुज्ञान मार्गदर्शकाय नमः। ओम श्री साई ज्ञान स्वरूपाय नमः। ओम श्री साई गीता बोधकाय नमः। ओम श्री साई ज्ञान सिद्धिकाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सुंदर रूपाय नमः। ओम श्री साई पुण्य पुरुषाय नमः। ओम श्री साई बलप्रदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ओम श्री साई पुराण पुरुषाय नमः। ओम श्री साई अतीताय नमः। ओम श्री साई कालातीताय नमः। ओम श्री साई सिद्धिरूपाय नमः। ओम श्री साई सिद्धसंकल्पाय नमः। ओम श्री साई आरोग्यप्रदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई अन्नवस्त्रदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई संसार दुःखक्षयकराय नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वाभीष्टप्रदाय नमः। ओम श्री साई कल्याणगुणाय नमः। ओम श्री साई कर्मध्वंसिने नमः। ओम श्री साई साधुमानस शोभिताय नमः। ओम श्री साई सर्वभक्त सम्मताय नमः। Om Shri Sai Sadhumanasa Parishodakaya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Sadhananugraha Vatavriksha Pradishtabhakaya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Sakala Samshaharaya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Sakala Bodhakaya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Yogishwaraya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Yogindra Vanditaya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Sarvamangalakaraya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Sarvasiddhipradaya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Apalnivarine Namaha. Om Shri Sai Artiharaya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Shantamurte Namaha. Om Shri Sai Sulabhaprasannaya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Bhagawan Shri Satya Sai Baba Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Swami, we offer our collective prayers at thy divine lotus feet. Please bless one and all. Dear elders, brothers and sisters of Sai family, we begin our Prema Bandham program by wishing everyone a holy New Year 2022. We wholeheartedly thank Bhagawan for handholding us during these difficult years, guiding, blessing, and protecting each and every one of us. As we reflect during these difficult times, it was a great opportunity to serve the needy in different parts of the country and the world, seeing Bhagawan in them at every stage. Let's continue with deep faith and devotion and steadfastness our seva which Bhagavan has ordained us to do day in and day out. Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. We begin this program for the day with two eminent alumni who have contributed significantly in their areas of expertise at a national level. Brother Gopi Chandran and Brother Hari Krishnan.
Now, we will have two distinguished alumni address us on this occasion. First, Dr. R. Gopi Chandran. Dr. Gopi Chandran is a professor of Environment and Sustainability at NTPC School of Business, Noida. He studied in Vrindavan from 1979 to 1982. He belongs to the first batch of Balavika students, first batch of MSc students, and is also one of the first PhD students in the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. He is a former director of Vigyan Prasar, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He is a member of Inter-Ministerial Steering Committee, India Cooling Action Plan, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. He worked for close to 27 years on ozone layer protection in close association with the UNEP at the national, regional and global levels. He is an alumnus of the International Visitors Leadership Program of the Department of States, United States of America. Now I welcome Dr. R. Gopi Chandran to address all of us.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Most beloved Bhagawan, kindly permit me to offer myself at your divine lotus feet. And most grateful Swami for this wonderful opportunity to be able to reconnect once again with our sisters and brothers who have been in your folds, and the great opportunity to be able to express the gratitude we carry in our hearts. Swami, the greatest lesson you taught was the value of this unique human expression, the sense of gratitude, which perpetually acknowledges the grace you have provided, and therefore the call to remain focused on the values that you have infused in us. When we have this opportunity to be able to share the lessons we derived from you, Swami, and therefore the chance to share it with our brothers and sisters, I wish to focus on three important lessons. The first and the foremost is, as Swami taught us during our studies, and this was around my master's, in Prasanthi Nilayam, and that was the year 82 to 84, years 82 to 84. Swami said he will deliver a series of discourses on what he called the 10 Commandments. The first commandment was love and serve your motherland. Swami, my dear sisters and brothers, what a profound message was that. And this was to inspire us to translate his messages into action when opportunities come our way as we evolve in our professions. Having to work on issues of the protection of the ozone layer at the national, regional, and global levels, this lesson, Swami and my dear sisters and brothers, came to great effect, was put to great effect, if I can restate it. When we look at, therefore, the expanse of the ecosystems, nature, we realize that every one of us within our own nations have an important role to play in the protection of what we call the global commons. Water, soil, air, these are all properties that are common to all of us. And in that context, Swami, when we look at the message of love and serve your motherland, it also means how seamless is the entire globe across all the nations. So when we therefore serve the environmental agenda of inclusiveness, of growth, and the Swami would also say growth with quality, infused with human values, acknowledging responsibility, environmental responsibility. The most wonderful opportunity is about compliance, fulfilling what our country commits to the rest of the world, and therefore doing everything in terms of technical assistance, knowledge products, enabling policy instruments, translating a policy intent into a reality, can all be centered on the spirit of dedicating our work to our nation. And when we move into the global scale communities, we also carry the responsibility of behaving as a responsible Indian. And this, Swami, has been the most wonderful message. Love and serve your motherland. And in this process, love and serve the motherland, the fatherland of others. And in this process, Swami, there was another classic lesson that you had taught us. And that is, stay steadfast in your values. Stay steadfast in your values. To have the courage to stand up and say, while I may not agree with many things which you say, I wish to highlight the importance of what is correct. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. To be able to have the courage to do what is right and abide by it and stand by these values, Swami, has been the second most important lesson that you imparted to us. This has stood in great stead throughout my work. And I am just one of those of Swami's children. And I'm sure every one of you in your own walks of life have had such amazing experiences whereby when you stuck to the values that Swami had taught us, the end result has always been complete protection. The third interesting lesson that Swami, and an extremely important lesson that gravitates to our own inner hearts, much like the values which I stated, is the experience that Swami gives us through his omniscience. Swami, you are so kind to give me the opportunity to travel with you for the inauguration of the Kodai bungalow. I remember the year was 1986. One evening when we were all seated around with Swami, Swami graciously walked up to me and said, in the next few minutes we will have a guest visiting us. And the guest will ask for boys to speak. And I want you to speak. And Swami said this much before the guest would arrive. Typical Kodai climate, cool. That evening it started, in fact, raining. It was not drizzling, it was raining, in fact. After Swami's darshan, and Swami came back into the bungalow when we were again seated around him, this guest arrived. And who is this guest? He is Shri C. Subramaniam, who was responsible for India's Green Revolution along with Professor Swaminathan. Being a devotee of Swami, after the initial discussions with Swami, in the manner in which any of us would interact with him, Swami asked him, so Subramaniam, what do you want now? Now that you have come all this way, you have had Swami's darshan. And what did he say? He said, Swami, I want to listen to your voice speak. And what did I say? Swami told this to us much before Subramaniam arrived. Swami looked at us and we understood the import, the joy of Swami telling us much before he had arrived. And this was to say, look, he knew what Subramaniam would ask for. And when Swami looked around, I put my hand up and said, Swami, I'll speak. Because Swami had already told me that I should be ready to speak. And even as I was walking towards Swami, what does Swami say? Swami says, you know my boys, they can speak on any topic. What should be the topic that Gopi should speak on now? He said, Swami, environmental issues. Such issues are growing now world over. And I would like to listen to what is the latest in the field of environment. Oh, Swami gave me that opportunity also because I could speak probably best only on the field of environment. It would not have been easy for me to speak on anything else. But then, of course, Swami's grace flows through us. I spoke for quite some time. And at the end of it, quite some time was close to about 45 minutes. And then what does Swami, like when I conclude my talk, Swami then tells Subramaniam, we heard Gopi speak. What else do you want? You ask any other topic and any one of my students will be able to speak once again. And then he says, Swami, I would love to listen to recent developments in the field of chemistry. And then we have one more of our brothers walking up and speaking. Swami, we are most grateful to you for giving us the joy of such moments. And let me share another moment with you. I was most fortunate to have been born into a family of Swami's devotees. Way back, 60s. And what happens? I naturally, if I can say, go to Balvikas, then to the Pre-Seva, then and come to Swami's college in 79, joined Vrindavan. Mine was the last batch at the Bangalore University. And then fortunately, mine was also the first batch for Masters and first batch for PhD in Prasanthi Nilayam. During my masters, my mother and my grandmother come for Swami's darshan. My mother was my brother's Balvika's guru. My brother also studied in Prasanthi Nilayam, Vrindavan and Prasanthi Nilayam. When Swami called them for an interview, what does he do? He reveals his omniscience. Swami tells my grandmother, who was by then in her mid-late 70s, what does he say? Do you know I'm always in your home, looking at you all, watching you closely? I'm very happy with you all. My grandmother says, Swami, oh, we are most blessed. And then what does Swami say? He says, you know that old man in your house sitting at the entrance of your home? My grandmother says, oh, you mean Gopi's grandfather? Swami says, yes, Gopi's grandfather. And what does Swami say? Swami says, he does not really express his devotion for Swami, but he always loves Swami. He keeps Swami in his heart. He is very happy that you are all doing bhajans. Gopi and his brother are here with me. And his son, that's my father, is deeply involved in Swami's seva. He loves Swami a lot. Please convey my blessings to him. My grandmother is thrilled. And then what does he again tell my grandmother? He says, why do you serve curds by lifting the curds from the vessel with your hands? I've been watching you do this for years. Why don't you use a spoon or a ladle to lift curds? My grandmother was thrilled. We were thrilled beyond measure because Swami was watching us in our daily lives too. When Swami would say, Nenu intane, ventane, kantane, gentane untunnanu. మీరు ఎన్నోసార్లు దీని గురించి వింటున్నారు, కానీ ఎప్పుడైనా ఒకసారి దీన్ని మీరు ఆలోచించి దీన్ని మీరు ప్రాక్టీస్లో పెట్టాలి అని స్వామి బోర్డన్ సార్లు చెప్పేవారు. వాట్ స్వామి సేస్, I tell you this so many times, at least sometime or the other, please start understanding this experience and live it. Swami, I promise you, will live by that experience, Swami. Let me go back to the first value, and the Swami would say, speak about your own direct experiences. And Swami, let me conclude with this one interesting experience, and I offer it to you, Swami, and I'm sure you will like it, Swami, and I dare say it so. And that is to say, Swami, I offer myself at your lotus feet. Swami said, love and serve your motherland, right? And here, as I grew in my career and I had the opportunity at a certain point of time to lead national initiatives as a director of an autonomous institution of the Department of Science and Technology that had to do with the spirit of science, the science culture and scientific temper and so on. One fine moment it occurred to me that when we express our vote of thanks to people, we say, thank you, Mr. So-and-so, thank you, Ms. So-and-so. But how often have we ever said, thank you, motherland, for giving me this opportunity to serve you? And Swami, my dear sisters and brothers, that message about having to express our gratitude to our motherland went into the minds and hearts of lots of people, including some top decision makers in the country. After about 3 to 4 years, when I had consistently been doing this, and when I had to leave my office and went away somewhere else, an official in one of the highest offices in our country meets me in the institute I'm now teaching. And he says, aren't you that same Gopi who had spoken to us about expressing our gratitude to our motherland? I said, yes, sir. Sai Ram, I am the same Gopi. This is to share with you that when messages of gratitude are delivered and delivered from the heart, they are accepted and probably inspire others to also adopt them. Swami, therefore, the 3 most important takeaways are: live the spirit of gratitude, live the spirit of steadfastness, and always enjoy the protection of your omniscience and omnipresence, and therefore continue to remain at your lotus feet. Swami, the subjects you allowed us to learn at the institute were profound. I remember when I did my master's between 82 to 84 and then started my PhD work in 84, Issues of environment were picking up at the national, regional, and global levels. Swami, what a wonderful turn of events to be able to pick some of those frontier areas for work. This therefore gave the opportunity to not only stick to the science aspects of research, but also in applications of science for policy, for development, again, through India for the rest of the world. Most grateful, Swami, to you on all these fronts. I promise to remain at your lotus feet, and I'm sure, like many of my brothers and sisters who have been through your folds, we all will remain dedicated. Jai Sai Ram.
The next speaker is Sri Hari Krishnan Nair. Sri Hari Krishnan Nair heads the Western India Cashew Company, India's leading exporter of cashews in consumer packs, and currently chairs the Global Cashew Council. He has also served as chairman of the Cashew Export Promotion Council of India and Confederation of India Industry, Kerala. Sri Hari Krishnan Nair was a Balavika student who did his high school at the Sri Sathya Sai Vidyapeeth, Sri Salem, his senior schooling at Prasanthi Nilayam, and BCom at the Bandham campus. He received the Institute's Gold Medal for Academic Excellence from Swami in 1988. He did his PGDM from the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta in 1991. Sri Hari Krishnan Nair's late father was a Kerala State Trust member and district president of the Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization. His mother has been a Balavika's guru since the early 1980s. His family regularly contributes to the service activities of the Kollam Samiti and recently donated 2 ventilators to the COVID ward of the Kollam District Hospital. Now, I welcome Sri Hari Krishnan Nair to address the audience.
Om Shri Sai Ram. My humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagawan. I would firstly like to thank Brother Sai Prasanna for having introduced me today, and also Prema Bandham and the Alumni Association for giving me this opportunity to address my brothers and sisters from the Satsai Institutes. It is 33 years since I graduated from Bandham. Yet, it is those years which still define the moral compass that I have and continues to guide me further forward in my life, in everything that I do. Today, I would like to touch upon a few of the interactions I was lucky enough to have, I was blessed enough to have with Swami, and the lessons that I have gleaned from them, which have helped me to face various problems and various issues later in life. Firstly, my parents were devotees of Swami from much before the time I joined Prasanthi Nilayam. My father was a very strident believer in certain principles. One of them was naturopathy or nature cure. He did not like any medical interventions, and he was into a natural living. And this was actually part of something which he picked up from one of Swami's discourses earlier. My mother had been carrying a tumor on her breast for almost 4 years without actually showing it to a doctor. Finally, they came to Puttaparthi, and I was able to ask Swami about what we should be doing. And Swami immediately said, take her to Apollo Hospital in Madras. Everything will be okay. The next day, again, Swami called me and said, no, you don't go to Apollo, you go to Vellore Hospital. Swami will look after. So my mother went to Vellore. My parents went to Vellore. The operation was conducted and the tumor was removed, and it was found to be benign. The doctors said that it was an extremely large tumor, and it is a wonder that it was benign. A few years later, in Vrindavan, I had made a small speech in front of Swami in Tri Vrindavan. And after that, Swami said, this boy's mother had cancer, and I have removed the cancer. Swami is always there with you. Swami always gives you guidance. Swami is always there with you. Earlier this year, I was afflicted with cancer. It was found to be a very aggressive cancer. And I went through chemotherapy. And after that, I went through a very serious 10-hour operation to remove the organ. And after that, I am back to living a reasonable life. And during this period, also, the day before the operation, my sister, showed me something on YouTube, or a video on YouTube posted by Radio Sai, and it happened to be a speech made by one of my classmates. It gave me so much of relief and strength that I have been able to go through the treatments, some of which are pretty severe, with the confidence that Swami is with me and Swami will always be with me. In the context of my father's very strident philosophies, the way he used to, stick with some of his philosophies. Swami said that he's like Vishwamitra, and he said that do not be like Vishwamitra, be more moderate. And that is something that I have been able to also follow. This has helped me deal with people from many cultures, where the expected way of behavior and the expected models are very, very different from what we have grown up with. I have dealt with suppliers in various countries in Africa, and also in Asia, and also in also very advanced customers in America. And it is this ability that Swami has inculcated in us to be able to see things from others' point of view that has helped me throughout. Once in Vrindavan, my father came and told me to ask Swami to guide him about a particular decision he wanted to take or he needed to take in his business. So I told my father that this is not the sort of thing that we normally ask Swami. He said, no, it's very important, son. So you go and speak with Swami if possible. So I told Swami, and Swami just brushed my face away. And he said, Donapota, money comes and goes. Morality comes and goes. So I was feeling very sheepish but in front of all my brothers. And then I went back and told this to my father. Later that evening, Swami came to me and Swami said, tell your father that markets go up and down. And it is always, what goes up has to come down, what comes down has to go up. What he has to do is to make his own decisions. He has a business where a lot of people are working with him. And it is important that he gives attention to the decisions, and he has to be satisfied with what he does. The result, whether it is a profit or a loss, is in God's hands. But you know that Swami has taught you how to live without all the pleasures, and that will help you to make the right decision. I have employed this principle throughout in my work also. Once, from Africa, a ship containing 30 containers of cashews, which was coming to me, sank. And this represented almost my entire capital. But I was able to be equanimous in handling the problem. I went to the insurance companies, I went to the bank, managed to convert it into a long-term debt, went to the insurance companies and pushed this forward, got the surveys done, and finally managed to solve the problem without too much of a loss. In another instance, I had developed business with a major customer in Europe as the fulcrum of my business, and had invested very heavily into that customer. But they had changed they decided to change their policy, and I was left very high and dry, and we ended up losing so much of money, and we needed to sell some property to meet the debts that we had with the bank. My father was alive at that time, so I went and told him that this has happened, and he told me, "See, Swami has given you the equanimity and the strength to deal with all problems. So do what is best and go forward with it." My family has also stood by me during all those problems, and it is because of what Swami has taught us. Swami has taught us that we should, Nishkama Karma is what Swami had called it. That is, the result is not in our hands. But does this mean that we should not plan? And does this mean that we should not try to get the best results? No, that's not true. In 1985 was Swami's 60th birthday. And I was a student in Bandham at that time. And we used to have a lot of eminent people who used to come and speak to us. Swami used to ask them to speak to us. There were eminent jurists, bureaucrats, diplomats, army generals, and political leaders, etc. One of them said that the biggest miracle that Swami had done was to provide water to the whole of Anandpur district for his 60th birthday. Now, this was a project which took a severe amount of strategic thinking about what is the problem, how to get it done, the leadership involved, how to manage it, and how to execute the project and get it done on time and within budget. Now, this was done with a voluntary body, and this is something which even governments had found it difficult to take up. This is a sort of project which even the government of India or the state government found difficult to take up at that time. So it's in front of us. So what Swami has done, how Swami has changed the world for the better is in front of us. And it is up to us to try and emulate what Swami has done for society to the extent that we can in our own small and simple ways. Swami always said, help ever, hurt never. And this is something which I have also tried to imbibe and inculcate in all my work in various organizations where I have taken leadership positions for the industry organizations, and also tried to do this in my own business, and how we work with the employees, how we work with society, and what is today called CSR. Let me again take this opportunity to wish you all a very happy, prosperous, and Holy New Year 2022. And reassure you and all of us that Swami is with us, taking care of us and giving us strength and guidance to go forward in the right path all the time. Thank you very much, and Sai Ram.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Satya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Pati Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadish Hare Shivadana Shvekara Sarva Pranapate Swami Sarva Pranapate Ashrita Kalpanatika Ashrita Kalpanatika Apadvanava Om Jai Jagadish Hare Mata Pita Guru Daivamu Mariyantayu Nive Swami Mariyantayu Nive Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nada Brahma Jagannatha Kaveta Shayana Om Jai Jagadish Hare Rupa Jai Sai Mahadeva Satya Sai Mahadeva Mangalarati Amrita Mangala Giridhari Om Jai Jagadish Hare Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadgurudeva सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।